Okay, so imagine you find this roadmap to getting rich, but it throws out all the usual stuff about saving and working hard.
Yeah.
Kind of makes you wonder, right? Well, that's what the Millionaire Fastlane is all about.
Right.
MJ DeMarco, the author, he basically says, forget getting rich slow, there's a faster lane.
And what's really interesting is DeMarco, he doesn't even see wealth the way most people do.
Yeah, like it's not all about fancy cars and mansions.
Right. I mean, he talks about that stuff,
Yeah.
but it's more about something he calls the wealth trinity.
Okay, so what's that?
Freedom, health, relationships. Those are the real signs of wealth, according to him.
That's pretty different. I mean, we usually hear it's all about the money.
Yeah, for sure.
But isn't that kind of idealistic? Like, how does that actually work in the real world?
Well, DeMarco, he tells this story about when he sold his company.
Oh, okay.
He felt rich, bought a sports car, all the designer clothes. But then he realized it wasn't enough. Yeah, it did make him truly happy. True wealth, it's about living life the way you want, being healthy, and having close relationships.
And he's saying if you ignore that stuff, you could end up, well, empty.
Exactly, even if you've got tons of money.
That makes a lot of sense. So, how do we get on this right track?
He lays out 3 different paths, he calls them roadmaps, to reach that kind of, holistic wealth.
Okay, so what are they?
The sidewalk, the slow lane, and the fast lane.
All right, let's start with the sidewalk. What's that about?
Basically, it's living with no plan, just spending as you go, wanting everything right now, leads to being really unstable financially.
I think we've all been on that sidewalk a few times, maybe with some impulse buys we regretted.
Probably.
What about the slow lane? I feel like most people know that one pretty well.
Right, that's the traditional route. Get a job, save your money, invest, and eventually you'll be wealthy. But it could take forever.
Like decades.
Yeah, and DeMarco, he points out a lot of problems with that, especially these days. You're basically trading your time for money. You're limited in how much you can earn.
And you're stuck dealing with things you can't control, like the stock market crashing.
Exactly, or the economy taking a nosedive. And the worst part,
What's that?
you might get to retirement and realize you're too old to enjoy it.
Spend your best years working your butt off, and then you finally get there, but it's too late to travel or do the things you always wanted.
Yeah, it makes you think.
Yeah, it's kind of scary, honestly. So let's talk about this fast lane.
Okay.
What makes it so different?
The fast lane, it's about building businesses, creating value for other people, and generating passive income. Your money works for you even when you're not.
So you're not just trading your time for money anymore.
Right. And this is where his law of affection comes in.
Okay, and what's that?
Basically, it says the more people you help, the more lives you impact through your business, the wealthier you become.
So it's not just about chasing profits, it's about making a real difference. But how does that actually lead to, wealth? Can you give some examples?
Think about Bill Gates and Microsoft.
Yeah, okay.
Or J.K. Rowling and the Harry Potter books. Millions of people bought their products, and they became super wealthy.
So their impact just multiplied, and so did their wealth.
Yeah. And it's not just, huge companies or famous authors. DeMarco, he uses the example of the guy who invented the Snuggie.
It's a Snuggie, really.
Simple idea, right? But tons of people loved it. That's the fast lane in a nutshell. Find a need, create a solution, and make it big.
I get it, but starting a business, it can be pretty overwhelming. Where do you even begin?
Well, DeMarco, he has these 5 business seedlings.
Seedlings, okay.
They're like the starting point for your fast lane journey. First, you have rental systems.
Like what?
Think real estate, patents, licenses. You own something that brings in money without you having to actively work for it.
Oh, okay. I can see the appeal of that. What else?
Then there's computer systems, internet businesses, software, apps on your phone, all generating income 24/7.
So even while the developers are sleeping, the money keeps coming in.
Exactly.
Are there any others?
You also have content systems, books, blogs, online courses. You create it once, and you can sell it over and over.
So you're basically leveraging your knowledge and creating something that keeps generating value over time.
Right.
Okay. What else?
Then there's distribution systems, franchises, network marketing.
Okay.
But remember, DeMarco is really clear about this. He says you have to own the network marketing company, not just join one.
Gotcha. You want to be in charge, not just another cog in the wheel.
Exactly.
Okay, so what's the last seedling?
The last one is human resource systems. So building a team to help you grow your business.
So it's all about leveraging the power of teamwork to scale your impact.
Right. But DeMarco warns you got to be careful with this one. It can actually eat up your time if you don't manage your team the right way.
Yeah, it's all about finding that balance, right? You want your business to thrive without you being chained to it 24/7. So let's say you've figured out which seedling you want to plant.
Mm-hmm.
What's the next step?
DeMarco, he has these actionable takeaways to help you on your fast lane journey, like tools and strategies to get started and, uh, you know, deal with challenges.
I like the sound of that. But before we jump into those, let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsor. Okay, welcome back. We were about to get into DeMarco's actionable takeaways.
Right.
You mentioned something called worst-case consequence analysis.
Yeah, WCCA.
So what is that exactly?
It's a way to make smarter choices, especially when you're dealing with something risky. You basically think about the worst thing that could happen.
Okay, so you're kind of playing out the worst-case scenario.
Right. You figure out how likely that bad thing is to happen,
Yeah.
and then you decide if you're okay with that risk.
So it's about being prepared, not just jumping in blindly.
Exactly. And DeMarco, he has a great example from his own life.
Oh, yeah.
He was out one night, and things could have gotten kind of dicey, but he used WCCA, thought about the worst case, and made a better choice.
See, that's what I like about this stuff. It's not just theory. It's about real-life stuff we can all relate to. Okay, so besides WCCA, what else does DeMarco give us to, actually put this fast lane stuff into action?
He talks about the change bucket analogy.
Okay, what's that?
It's a way to change how you think about money. Like, instead of stressing about how much you need to save, you focus on adding to your change bucket a little bit every day.
So even if it's just a few bucks, you're making progress.
Right, and it helps you build momentum, You start seeing money as something that can grow and give you freedom.
It's that whole millionaire mindset thing, right?
Exactly.
Okay, I like that. But changing how you think about money, that can be hard.
For sure.
Especially with all the messages we get about needing to buy stuff to be successful.
DeMarco talks a lot about that. He calls it parasitic debt, like that debt that holds you back instead of helping you.
So like financing a fancy car just to show off is bad debt. But maybe investing in a rental property is good debt.
That's a perfect example. It's about making sure your money is working for you, not the other way around.
So being smart about debt, not just avoiding it completely. What else does DeMarco suggest we do to, get our finances in order?
He really stresses the importance of understanding, like, basic financial stuff. Knowing how interest works, how to budget, all that.
Okay, yeah. Financial literacy is key. What about managing time? DeMarco talks a lot about that, right?
He says it's your most valuable asset. We all have the same 24 hours, but it's how we use them that makes all the difference.
Yeah, I've heard that before. But it's easy to forget when you're caught up in everyday life.
Right. DeMarco says people in the slow lane, they're careful with their money, but they waste their time. Fast lane people, they're careful with their time.
So it's like flipping the script, right? Time is the real currency.
Exactly. He even talks about this thing called indentured time, the time you spend working just to pay off debt or keep up a lifestyle you can't really afford.
Oof, that's a sobering thought. So how do we avoid that?
He says, track your time.
Yeah.
Figure out what's wasting it, and then make better choices about how you spend it.
Be intentional. Make sure you're not sacrificing your present for a future that might not even happen.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. Anything else about managing time?
He also says you need to be willing to take risks, calculated risks, obviously. It's not about gambling, but seeing an opportunity and going for it.
That can be scary, right?
Yeah. And that's where he brings up the worst case consequence analysis again. Thinking about the potential downsides helps you avoid those really bad choices.
Okay, so WCCA isn't just about money decisions.
Nope.
It's like a tool we can use for any big decision. So you've got your fast lane plan ready. How do you choose which road to take?
DeMarco, he actually has a roadmap for that too.
Yeah.
He calls them the 5 fast lane commandments. They help you figure out if a business idea is really worth pursuing.
Okay, so these commandments, they're like a filter to make sure you're on the right track.
Exactly.
Well, I think that's a perfect place to stop for now. When we come back, we'll dive into those 5 commandments and see how they can help you create a successful fast lane business.
Okay, so we're back and we're ready to crack open these fast lane commandments.
Right.
These are DeMarco's guidelines for evaluating business ideas, right?
Right.
To see if they're, actually fast lane worthy.
Exactly. And the first one is the commandment of need. It's all about building a business that solves a real problem, something people actually need.
Okay, so it's got to be more than just a cool idea you had.
Right. It can't just be something you think would be cool. It's got to be something that fills a gap in the market. Think about it, those everyday problems, those little annoyances.
Like when you can't find your keys, or when the grocery store is out of your favorite cereal.
Exactly. Those frustrations, they can point you towards real needs that people are willing to pay to solve.
So you're saying turn those of moments into opportunities.
Yeah.
I like that. What's the second commandment?
The commandment of entry. This is about making sure your business isn't too easy to copy. Right. You want some barriers to entry, kind of like that moat we talked about earlier.
Exactly. It's about creating something unique, something that sets you apart from the competition.
Okay, so what are some ways to do that? Is it all about patents and, you know, fancy technology?
Those can help, but DeMarco says one of the best ways is to specialize. Become the expert in a specific niche.
So instead of being a jack of all trades, be a master of one.
Exactly. People are more willing to pay a premium for expertise, and it's a lot easier to stand out when you're not competing with everyone else in the world.
That makes sense. So you've got a great idea that fills a need, and it's got some barriers to entry. What's next?
The commandment of control. This one's all about owning your business, being in charge.
Right, not being a, what did he call it?
A hitchhiker.
Yeah, hitchhiker on someone else's fast lane.
He warns against those business models where you're basically dependent on someone else's success, like a franchise or even, a traditional job.
So it's about having the freedom to make your own decisions, take risks, and reap the rewards.
Exactly. You want to be the captain of your ship, not just a passenger. Okay, on to the fourth commandment,
Okay, lay it on me.
the commandment of scale. This one challenges you to think big. Build a business that can grow, that can reach a lot of people.
This is where those online businesses and content systems really shine, right?
Yeah, they can go global. DeMarco says to be wary of lifestyle businesses.
Those are the ones that, like, maybe make a decent living, but they don't really have any growth potential.
Exactly. You want a business that can expand, that can reach more and more people.
Makes sense.
All right.
Okay, so last but not least, what's that final commandment?
The commandment of time. It's all about building a business that gives you more time, not less.
That's the dream, isn't it? Not being chained to your desk 24/7.
DeMarco says to automate, delegate, build systems that can run without you constantly needing to be there.
That's about working smarter, not harder,
Right.
right? So you can focus on the things that really matter.
Exactly.
So we've talked a lot about building businesses and making money, but DeMarco, he also challenges us to think about wealth in a different way. It's not just about the number in your bank account, right?
Right. He reminds us about the wealth trinity. Freedom, health, relationships. Those are the things that truly make life rich.
It's easy to forget that, you know? We get so caught up in the hustle that we lose sight of what really matters.
It's a trap it's easy to fall into.
So for our listeners out there, those who are maybe just starting their fast lane journey, what's the one piece of advice you'd give them?
I'd say don't be afraid to question everything. The old ways of doing things, the traditional advice, all of it. DeMarco encourages us to think for ourselves, to forge our own paths.
It's about taking control, being the architect of your own life. Right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's a great place to wrap things up. So to all our listeners out there, what problem are you going to solve? What need are you going to fill? How are you going to build your fast lane?
And how are you going to make sure that Fastlane leads you to a life of freedom, health, and meaningful relationships?
Keep those questions in mind as you continue your journey. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.